Hello, I am Wraith Pocketwatch, and you are here to watch Pocket Gaming. Yes, I named my gaming channel for a terrible pun. They say start as you mean to go on.
Okay, and here we are in my final game of the first season of the Giant in the Playground Blood Bowl League, playing the gold-blooded Gangsters, the Lizardman team. As I recall, up to this point, this team, the gold-blooded Gangsters, the Ekrand Infiltrators, who were one of the Skaven teams, and the Dark Alpha Daggers, the Dark Elves, had managed to only lose one game. So if the gold-blooded Gangsters beat me in this game, then that would have put them also on 4 wins and 1 loss, thus creating a 3-way tie at the top of the table. And also because it was kind of a triangle. I think the Lizardmen beat the Dark Elves beat the Infiltrators, and the Infiltrators beat the Lizardmen. Which, I don't know what that would have done to the playoffs then, because it was only 2-person playoffs in the first season. Which, obviously, is fair enough, given there were only 6 teams in the league. Yes. Okay, so... Right, I chose to receive. Okay, that's odd. I usually choose to kick. But I guess I wanted to receive first to see if I could get some early damage done to the skinks, since of course they are quite breakable. Of course, you'll notice I'm not even trying to fight the front line here, because there is too much strength on it. He has a Croxagore and 4 Saurus on the front line. So, let's see, the strength 4, 4, 5, 4, 4. It's theoretically possible that I could match up to it, since I do have 4 vampires and they're all strength 4, but I would be committing most of my team just to fighting that front line. And that would kind of be against my game plan, because my game plan here is to attack the skinks because they're weak and breakable. Yes, so Conrad doing this because he has block. Unfortunately, didn't do anything, but the skinks are next to my players, at least, which is a place they don't want to be. What skills do I have at this point? So Jasper has dodge already, so Conrad has block. I think that may be all the skills on my team. Oh no, Stephen North also has block. It is possible that I forget that at points during this game. I distinctly remember forgetting that he had block and was therefore actually pretty good at hitting things. Particularly because he didn't really earn those star player points. He got 2 MVPs, so he hasn't really done anything thus far in his career. Yes, of course. So since I failed that Bloodlust, I thought I'd put this skink in a tackle zone, then I had to fight Martin Morris, and so therefore I needed to bring another thrall over here so that the skinks wouldn't have, an easy lane down the side of the pitch that they could just run straight through without dodging. Of course, skinks are very good at dodging. They have the dodge skill, and because they're stunty, they ignore the tackle zones that they are dodging through. So every dodge they make is just a 3+, more or less. But yes, I'm not. I rerolled that because I had forgotten, of course, that Prehensile Tail would affect that dodge. I should have dodged Gideon Crawl first, because the whole reason I put, what was his name, Pavel Prokop there, was because he was my free journeyman for this game. I was missing some players for this game. Okay, so I actually left Richard Dauntless off the pitch. Yeah, I was missing some players for this game. And he fails his regeneration, so this is not looking great for me. But yes, I put the free journeyman on there. And just about okay. Yeah, because I obviously, in the long term at least, I didn't care what happened to him. In the short term, obviously, I would have preferred him to stay on the pitch. And yeah, so this is a problem. And of course, that will be also why I tried to re-roll it, because him being on the floor messed up my formation and allowed the Croxagore to just run straight in. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily such a great idea, and these certainly, this one in particular, because he's leaving his skinks, some of his skinks, in contact with my players, and so that's just free blocks for me on the his flimsy little stunty guys. And there we go, 1 KO. But it can't be denied that I am still in some pretty serious trouble here. So unless I obviously don't want to just let him score here. I was receiving, but it wouldn't be unsalvageable if I did just let him score here, so long as I get something out of it. So preferably I want to beat up his skinks. That would probably be why I'm thinking so hard about this. Okay. Just marking the skinks, I guess, and figured I might as well hypnotise one. The problem with this is that the Croxagore can just turn around and hit him, and even without that, the skinks can dodge. Ah, yes, using the dodge skill to make it more feasible to do that. And yes, push him into the ball. It's still not great. At least now that there are 2 vampires there, the Croxagore can't hit both of them. And I had to use a reroll to do that, but I did manage to pick up the ball, which means I am safe for the moment. I will have been feeling very unhappy about this position, but it could be worse. Let's see, I don't think many of his Saurus had block at this point. Okay, that one has block. I think that's it. Yeah, okay, so one of his Saurus has block, so that's something. And okay, that obviously was quite lucky for me, but he uses the reroll, and now, so long as he can roll a 3, he can score here. Because he just has to pick up the ball, and he fails, right. And I have to count my lucky stars, except it's still not that good for me. Fortunately, this skink is still hypnotized, so that could help. It means the ball is only in 1 tackle zone instead of 2. However, all my players who could potentially get to it are a bit tied up. So Conrad is really my best bet, and he is obviously over here. 5, 6, I can get Rory to there or there. My options are limited. I could Blitz Vanilla Ice. That looks like my best option, I think. Ideally I would want to throw there, and then so Conrad can blitz this direction, so we can push him into the Crocscore. Okay, no, I just decided to push a skink out the sidelines, which results in a knockout. That's probably been me being pessimistic, thinking I pretty much can't stop him scoring here, probably, and so therefore I should just try and do as much damage as possible. Though at this point, I was going to say actually, if I'd run Rory to here, so Conrad could have come to here and hypnotized Vanilla Ice, and then Sir Roderick could have dodged out and picked up the ball, potentially. So, yeah, but obviously I didn't do that. I can't believe I tried to do that. Having failed a Bloodlust, then going for that dodge on a 3 with a reroll and pick up on a 3, and of course then he's still stuck in a tackle zone. Oh, right, yes. I was trying to throw the ball away. That does make sense. Trying to throw the ball away makes a lot of sense. Because, well, of course, the thing with the Saurus and the Crocscore is that while they are strong, they are also all agility 1. So they can't dodge worth a damn. So if they're in tackle zones and the ball is somewhere over here, then they have a problem, or more likely over here. Particularly since, of course, Sir Conrad hadn't even moved yet. He could have been away down the pitch. But since I fumbled past, the ball is here, he's surrounding it, this is pretty good for him. He is knocking me over quite a lot. This is also good for him. I don't see... It doesn't look like he's going to pick the ball up this turn. So that's potentially something from my point of view. It means I will have another opportunity. Okay, so, right, okay, he's running this guy around and he's having horrible luck with pickup rolls. So his rerolls are gone. Mind you, I only have one left at this point. And he is in a much better position. However, I can easily blitz his ball carrier here, so long as Bloodlust doesn't screw me over. That ball carrier is exposed. A dodge for a vampire is only a 2, and that will still be 2 dice. But instead I hit that skink. I'm getting a definite sort of pessimism vibe from the way I'm playing. Like, I think that I can't do this. That I can't stop him, and so I'm not trying as hard as I might. But yeah, this does actually seem somewhat familiar. Okay, go for it to pen him in. And I am going to blitz the ball carrier, I assume, yes. And, of course, I can bite Rory. Oh, this might be... point. I remember in one of my matches, and no, I think it was... it may have been this one. Or actually, I'm not sure. Definitely in one of my matches, someone didn't know that I could bite prone thralls when I failed Bloodlust. Which, of course, comes in very handy. It was I think it might have been my first match of the second season. But regardless, obviously that's useful. And yes, now I'm not in such a bad position. And then I failed that dodge, but okay, and I failed the pickup. Okay, he's using his blitz there. I mean, using a blitz with a Croxigore is potentially risky regardless, because there's a 1 in 6 chance that he will fail his bonehead and therefore do nothing. But particularly using his blitz there means he can't blitz the guy next to the ball, which means the ball will remain in 1 tackle zone. One of my tackle zones, which makes it harder for him to pick it up, and means I'm likely to have more opportunities. Also worth noting, he only has 3 skinks left on the pitch. Yes, out of his 6. This is a point which I was definitely keeping track of, because, like I said, the Saurus and the Croxigore are agility 1, the skinks are agility 3. So, in practical terms, the skinks are the only ones who can really manage ball handling. The Saurus and Croxigore are there to hit things and to deter opponents. The skinks are the ones who can actually pick up the ball and score. So the more of them I get off the pitch, the better it is for me. because it doesn't matter how strong he is if he can't actually get a hold of the ball. So here, this, even though I am quite short on players on the pitch in general, I'm feeling kind of okay about this because all of my players can actually handle the ball. And I'm not without strength. Okay, and that I throw it another pass. I suppose that does make sense. I was thinking I could have dodged, but of course prehensile tail on the croc score is a -1. And if I fail that, then I fall over and the ball is left somewhere around here. Whereas, if I fail the pass, well, if it was inaccurate, then the ball would still be over here. It's only if I fumbled it that it would be stuck somewhere here. And then, right, Blitz, not wanting to risk Bloodlust and get another skink off the pitch, but since I didn't fail Bloodlust, I can move up. Yeah, specifically not wanting to risk Bloodlust with no rerolls left. And I've really kind of managed to sneak this out here, because it looked totally lost for me. I mean, well, it would have been... I would have conceded a touchdown, except he failed a couple of crucial pickup rolls, but even with that, he probably could have kind of kept guys around enough to stop me. Maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but it certainly seemed like I was just lost, and yeah, it's not. Yeah. Apparently him using multiple block there was an accident. Which meant, of course, multiple block allows him to block 2 targets, but at -2 strength on each, meaning he was only effectively strength 3, blocking my strength 4 vampire, and I was able to just choose the attacker down. The reason it took a while is because I didn't actually realise it was my choice. I didn't realise that he'd used multiple block. Blitz, and another skink off the pitch. He has only 1 skink left on the pitch, which means even if he can somehow get the ball back from me, he's going to have a very hard time scoring. And depending on how he rolls on his knockouts, he may have an incredibly difficult time in the next drive. So it's gone from what could have been awful for me, and it's turned out potentially brilliant. Cancelling out an assist so that I can hit this skink, which makes no difference because it has dodge. It also has fend. I don't really understand why it has fend. It would not be my first choice of skill to give a skink on a double. But regardless. Yes, there, of course. There was a potential risk, you know, when I stood up. If I'd failed Bloodlust, then failing the dodge would have led to a turnover, and I really wouldn't have cared, because he can't get guys up here quickly enough to stop this touchdown. So it's going to go through. All this Now this is the real sort of, he can't do anything, so he's just trying to hit me as much as possible. However, should be pointed out, he possibly should have run, say, Pretty Cool Carl in this direction, because now I have no incentive to actually do anything. I have 2 turns left in the half. If I score on this one, it is impossible for me to score again this half unless I get a blitz or a riot on the kickoff table, whereas he would still have 2 turns left and it would be possible for him to equalise the scoreline. On the other hand, I could just use that turn to hit a skink in the hopes of getting it off the pitch and having all his players with ball skills off the pitch, which would make for a brilliant second half for me. And then on the next, and then he still can't even reach me, so he can't prevent the touchdown. And he will not be able to score an equaliser unless there is a riot on the kickoff table. So he goes for extra hitting. Not badly hurt. And regeneration fails again, so I will be down to only 2 vampires for the second half. So that is a bit of an issue. On the other hand, it means my thralls have less to fear in terms of biting. And now I move up the thrall and run in the touchdown. So let us continue. Knockouts. 2 of his skinks come back. Neither of my knocked out thralls do. But okay. He's going to have 4 skinks, 5 strong things, 9 players in total, to my 7. I'm certainly not out of the woods yet in this regard, but I have my lead going into the second half. I think it was definitely the way this game went definitely sort of influenced me into continuing to sort of always choose to kick, because choosing to receive turned out so badly, and it was sort of against my habits, which sort of felt like it made things worse. And that's a weird setup he's got there. But whatever, brilliant coaching. It's not a riot, so he can't score. He can only go for a few additional star player points, and try to weaken my team for the remainder of the game. So while this is going on, since I've been talking about deciding to kick or receive, I suppose I can go into a bit more detail on that. Basically, I quite like to choose to kick, partly because, as is pointed out on BB Tactics, if you kick, then you get to defend with a full 11-man team, guaranteed. Whereas if you receive first, then you will be kicking in the second half, and you may have less players at that point. given that vampires can go through players at an unfortunate rate, given that the thralls are armor 7, it seems not unreasonable. It also influences the dynamic of the game, because you can kind of assume that if you receive the ball from the kickoff, you should be able to run in a touchdown eventually. So, then if you kick first, then should you manage to take the ball away from your opponent, you can just score. I mean, potentially you can try to delay it to make it less likely that they score in return in that half, but you can just score. And then if they do score in return, oh, well done to them, because obviously they had less time in which to do so than they would have. But then that takes it to 1-1, and then you're receiving again, and if you can then just drag things out, you can score again and make it 2-1. Alternatively, if you drag things out in the first half, you can end the first half 1-0. And then you're receiving again. There are other things with regards to, of course, it means you have the last turn in the half, which, if there's a possibility of when you can score, it can influence how many chances you and your opponent get to roll for knocked out players waking up, and this sort of thing. In the end, it's mostly just preference, and there is certainly an advantage to choosing to receive just so you can beat on the front line at the first opportunity, and that potentially, if that goes well, that can follow into an advantage that can just sort of snowball through the rest of the game, especially if the team you're facing is a bit flimsy. Now, back to what's actually going on now. That was a misclick. He didn't mean to try to dodge with a Saurus. And I re-rolled a both down and an attacker down into 2 attacker downs against that skink. That is unfortunate. So that kind of evened out the... My bad luck evened out his misclick somewhat. Otherwise, that could have been very bad for him, because I could potentially have gotten someone into his half to pick up that ball. And then, for all that I only have 7 players on the pitch, 6 now, he would have had some serious problems. Wait, is it 6? Oh yeah, it is 6. I was missing Martin Morris. He was obscured by the massive shadow of Big Frosty. Now, this sort of line he's got here. Ah, yes, I remember that happening. 3 attacker downs. A 1 in 216 chance of that happening, and the Croxagore knocking itself over. But it happens sometimes. But formation-wise, this line... It obviously prevents a frontal assault on the ball carrier, but I can potentially go round it, especially since I already have a guy here. Just 1 dodge and I can blitz the ball carrier. And this is more of an issue, because my guys who would be coming at it from the front are mostly marked. They would have to dodge. They can quite probably make those dodges, but... it's more dice I would have to roll. Whereas this, like I said, 1 dodge, and I blitz. And I chose to re-roll that, because since at this point I remember that Stephen North does have block, there's a 1 in 3 chance on each block dice of knocking over a skink. So it was not unreasonable. And now the ball is loose. See, whereas if he'd kind of covered the sort of back of his ball carrier, say if Ice-T and Deep Freeze had been here and here, then I mean, then when Big Frosty fell over, the front would have been weak. But he didn't have to make that block. I suppose it was very bad odds. But the thing is, even if that had worked, I could still have done this. Whereas, if these two had been at the back, and that had worked, then I could have gotten something, but it would have involved more dice rolls to get there, and been either only 1 dice with a thrall or still 2 dice with a vampire, but like I said, it would have been more difficult to get there. There may have been other options as well, I'm not sure. And then, yes, all that. I made quite a few rolls there, many of them relatively difficult, and then I finally failed on the one that should have been easy. You know, I managed the dodges into tackle zones without needing to re-roll anything, and for that matter picking up the ball in a tackle zone. But then rolling a 2 with a re-roll was apparently too difficult. Now this, I'm not sure about this, because he can score next turn, but he's in blitzing range and completely undefended. Bloodlust could have screwed me over, but it didn't. And there we go, another skink off the pitch. Leaving him with 2 skinks on the pitch. Oh no, 3. But, I mean, in this particular situation, those skinks can't one sacrifice might be able to get the ball. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1 going for it, and try to pick up in a tackle zone. Unless he blitzes Conrad out of the way. But my point is, this is fairly favourable to me. And there's a decent chance that I can pick up the ball and take it back in the other direction. Since I can also do this. 2 tackle zones. You can't get both of them out of the way. I rolled 2 1s on there. Okay. Tackle zones on the ball. A good idea. Now he's going to blitz to try to get one of the tackle zones off the ball and kind of block me off from the ball a bit more. This is all good for him, but he needs to get a skink in for it to make any real difference. Fails Bonehead, potentially helpful for me. Now, of course, he's used his blitz, so he has to dodge, and for all that skinks are good at dodging, it can't work all the time. Now, of course, it's not exactly going to be easy for me to get the ball at this point either. But it's possible. So... Right. Yeah, trying to take down more skinks. Still, of course. I'm really not sure what exactly would be the best thing to do about this. Maybe dodging Martin Morris out and bringing him down to here? And then I could hit Vanilla Ice. Oh. I'm not sure about this. I guess it's still trying to kill more skinks. And I suppose I got badly hurt, so it worked. I still don't know if it was the best idea, but... Right, yeah, I'm going to do that. And yes, this was the point I was making. If I cancel that assist, then this becomes 2 dice of my choice. Unfortunately, I failed Bloodlust. But... I mean, well, Pawn Sacrifice is on the floor, so he can only move 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 2 going for it. So he could potentially get the ball and get 1 square further down the pitch. And that's it. And apparently he's not going to try, so... yeah. Obviously, this is my point. The Saurus can keep hitting me, but they can't get the ball themselves. So, hence why I am focusing a lot of my efforts on getting the skinks out of the way. And now this next turn, obviously, I will have to possibly try a bit harder because there is a skink right here. And yeah, this is looking problematic for me now. But it's not hopeless. And block making itself useful again. Kind of feel bad about those rerolls and those blocks. And then of course Loner failing to allow him to reroll, which yeah, both his rerolls this half went on attempting to reroll a block with his Croxigore, and it not working, resulting in the Croxigore falling over. So, at this point, yes, I'm just going to blitz the skink. I get it both down, so it is on the floor. I can now try to pick up the ball, but it is of less significance than it would be if the skink was standing up, because the skink is the only one of his players that can feasibly pick it up for him. Greasy Bob, I'm going to hit him again. Of course he has Fend, but no, I can just push him into the Thrall. He can then knock him over in turn. And now, yeah, this is a big thing, and do I try to pick up the ball in 3 tackle zones or not? Apparently, yes, I do. But I don't bother trying to re-roll it, because it wasn't that likely to work. The point of trying, I think, was less that I thought I might succeed, and more that I hoped it would move the ball to somewhere more favourable to me. And, well, now the ball is in 2 tackle zones instead of 3. It's an improvement. Now the ball is in 1 tackle zone instead of 3. It's a significant improvement. He's really had some bad luck with the block dice, but I would not attribute all of my success to that. So, oh right, I tried to hypnotise him. Okay, I would have thought I'd just hit him, because especially I could have done that first and then hit him 2 dice. But this still works. And if I can dodge away, then this is where we see how lizardmen can really be sort of seriously countered because of the respective weaknesses of their players. Okay, oh right, I wanted to throw a pass. But yes, because the point is, the lizardmen as a team, obviously they have 3 player types, but the Croxagore can be sort of lumped in with the Saurus. They have strong players and they have fast, agile players. And each player type is weak in the other area. The Skinks are fast and decently agile, but they're only strength 2. So anything that involves hitting people, they are not very good at. Whereas the Saurus and the Croxagore are strong, but they have bad agility. So they are less useful in anything that involves dodging or the ball. So if I hadn't just lost the ball there, possibly I should have, in fact I should have just run Stephen North over here somewhere, because then all the Saurus down here were in tackle zones. The Croxagore wouldn't have had enough movement after standing up, leaving it... The Skinks are bad at hitting things, leaving it to these Saurus, which were all in tackle zones, and they can't dodge well. So then they would have to just hit the guys next to them. And yes, that. The theory there was that if I only got a push, then Stephen North would be able to get in a second hit. But of course, I got an attacker down and a both down, so I had to take the both down, thus removing both players from the pitch. Of course, it does mean he only has 1 skink, and he only has 1 turn left, meaning his only hope of scoring was to try and pick up the ball with a Saurus, and then pass it with the same Saurus to the skink. So I wasn't that worried. On his previous turn, if he'd stood Pawn Sacrifice up before moving Breezy Bob in to pick up the ball, then he could potentially have dodged out Breezy Bob and tried to throw that pass, which would not have been great because Stunty entails an automatic -1 to all passing rolls. But at least it would have been passing with agility 3. I suppose effectively given Stunty passing with agility 2, but it's better than agility 1. And yeah, the odds of me scoring again were not high, which is why I just hit that skink. I thought a casualty was more likely than an extra touchdown. And I win 1-0, thus ending my first season on 2 wins and 3 losses. There were no draws at all in the season. Of course, if the playoffs in the first season had been 4 teams instead of 1, then I would have been in 4 teams instead of 2, then I would have been in them. But there were 2, which, as I said, it makes a certain amount of sense, given that there were only 6 teams in the league. Frosty got the MVP, Matthew Baker got the MVP. Let's look at these stats. 3 casualties each. I got 5 knockouts. However, I sustained 4, he sustained 6. Yeah. We both had some issues, I suppose. But all in all, an interesting game. Definitely seeing some of the strong and weak sides of both teams, I would say. And that rounds out my first season.